welcome back to Hasbro's Hide. Going through our 9mm PCC again and trying to find out what went wrong when we shot the zinc bullets. It had nothing to do with the zinc bullets, okay? I hope I was clear in the first video, but I'm going to make that 100% clear in this video. Nothing to do with zinc bullets. I'll show you two reasons, and I know now why we had case head separation, and it's going to be very, very clear. Thanks to Andy, Zinc Master. He has been very helpful with his comments and led me to double guess myself. And when I double checked a different way, sure enough, I had a dimension wrong. Plus, the way the powder was shown on the Hodgkin website will lead you into trouble. And I'm going to show you that too. So let's start with the powder. We were definitely over pressure, okay? 6 grains with that bullet, definitely over pressure. And I'll show you how I found out. Now this is how I made a mistake. So you can hopefully avoid this too. You go to hodgkinsreloading.com, you go to CFE pistol powder, and down at the bottom here, it's going to tell you, okay, what pistol do you want to do, what cartridge, and it's going to help you get load data. So you go to 9mm Luger, and if you choose your bullet weight here, there's only 190 grain, you get the reloading data, and this is where I got my data from, okay? 6 grains minimum starting load, okay, and 6.4 in a high. So I had them loaded at 6 grains, way too high. Now I'll show you how I know that. So if we go back and we select a 95 grain bullet, if you look here, excuse me, get the reloading data, now we're going to see 5.9 grains. So a very similar result. I checked both of those because they weren't exactly the same bullet I was using, of course, and so I checked those both. But, and this is something that Walter Bunning showed me here as well. If you do this and you don't select the bullet weight and you scroll down to the bottom, actually I think I have to go back. Let me do this. Get the reloading date with no bullet data. Now it's going to show you other bullets. Okay, and you can see some other ones. If you look at this CEB Raptor, now it shows you 5.2. Had I seen that, that would have been the starting point. Absolutely, that would have been the starting point. And then you see the cartridge overall length is similar to what I did. The cartridge overall length, even according to a friend that's already loading this same bullet, not with this powder, but the same bullet, of 1.155, which is what I used. Now this is for a 65 grain, sorry, 1.14, but I used 1.155 thinking that was better. That was the second mistake. So first mistake is if you use the app as it's designed and you select the bullet weight, try to find the closest weight, to what you're doing, and you tell it get the reloading data, it misses the other 90 grains that are in there. There's no other 90 grain bullets listed in this. They have data. These are grayed out, so they don't have data in there. So that's where I got too much pressure, but that was not the only issue. So using the length, I went just a little bit longer, and these bullets shoot just fine at that, and that is the lead 147s. But if you notice, the profile is just a little bit different. Now I did some measurements, and I thought I had it figured out, but I clearly was wrong because, and I'll show you why, the bullet was into the lands. And in fact, it was jamming into the lands, causing an additional pressure spike. One or the other, over powder or charged, or having this too long, I might have been able to get by with one or the other. It's still not smart, right? But might have been get by with one or the other. But the combination of those two on the 4th round led to that case head separation. And we saw it starting on the ones before that. So here's another way to check it, and probably the better way to check it. I do this with pistols, and this is probably why I maybe got a little too comfortable here with the rifle. And so with this blowback style operation, see if I can get this in front of the camera so you can see this. I'll show you this first. There really is just this large chamfer and lead in, right? So you get less support, and this is something Eagle Eye was pointing out on Uncle Jim's live stream the other night. And thank you, Kenny. I appreciate your comments there too, because it's definitely something to consider. You have less support because they've increased on this Gen 2 barrel from Aero Precision. They've increased the lead-in chamfer, which decreases the case head support. Now, again, I'm not sure how well you're going to see this. I'll just try to get it in view because it's hard to zoom in with this, but it's down to where it almost completely supports the case. Now it's not perfect, right? So if I actually drew a line, it's about right there. So it's not right all the way back to where we have our extractor cut and the base of the web there, but it's really pretty close. And that is a factory Federal round, okay? 115 round. But it actually is the same overall length exactly as what I loaded on this one. So why would this one, well, I'll show you, this one chambers properly, and this one clearly does not. Now this is a dummy round, okay, but this is loaded exactly the same as the other one. And if you look here, that's where my measurement was wrong. I mean, it was completely wrong in that this is sticking out too far. So every time that bolt would slam shut, it's jamming the bullet into the lens and driving it back into the case. And so, you know, this is something on my rifle cartridges. I always measure exactly how far until I hit the lens, and then I start backing up. And that's one of the ways to get accuracy, but it's also one of the ways to be safe. And this one clearly does not go far enough in. Now, when that bolt slams shut, it's fine. And what I did was I actually loaded it around, dropped the bolt, pulled it out. Everything seemed to function fine. That's because it was just knocking the bullet back, and the bolt had enough mass and energy to drive it shut. So, overall length, too long for that bullet design. And that's what Andy was stating here. And Andy, you're definitely right. I thought I had it measured right, and I definitely did not. By going just a little bit longer, which I thought was safe, I actually increased the pressure by driving that into the lens. So those are the two mistakes, without a doubt. The app, yeah, that's just not a good way to run an app. They have a menu system where you drop down menu, you pick what you think you get, and there's other data that would have made you guess differently if you didn't use the app the way it's made. So that's one thing. But the other thing is missing this dimension. Because like I say, in a pistol, I have the barrel out for a new round like that, and I drop it in, make sure everything looks good and drops in. But in this rifle, I didn't do that. I just, you know, because it's a bit more of a pain to get that barrel off, right? So I tried to do some good measurements. I dropped the bolt. Everything seemed to be fine, but I was clearly wrong. Now, the interesting thing is that is at 1.115, or excuse me, 1.15. This is at 1.15, and it chambers just the same way, okay? So it's definitely the shape of the bullet and the ogive difference that made all of that stick out like that. So that's quite a bit sticking out, and when that bolt drops in, you can see it clearly won't do it. Now, there's another good way to check this with these blowback type systems, is you can hook, now this is an empty round, okay? You can hook this onto the bolt, and then you can slide this in, and when that bolt face touches, that's where it's going to be in the correct position in battery, so to speak, all the way against that bolt face. And so that round just goes right in there, no problem. So does the Federal round. It drops in right there. But again, since this one is hitting the lens, well, sure enough, it doesn't drop. Now, I could force it in there. You can feel it. I could definitely force it in there. But that's not the way we should be loading. So learn from my mistakes. You know, so you've done this an awful lot. Maybe you got a little too comfortable. I thought I was doing my checks right, but clearly for this bullet design, that was not correct. And checking it this way is much better, where you have the bolt, the chamber, and you check them, physically check them as well. And so that's the lesson learned. And no big deal now going back to the zinc. I knew it wasn't the zinc bullet. You know, many have had great success with those zinc bullets, but it was the combination of definitely being over pressure because of the way an app works and limited data. Had I gone to another powder, there's a lot more data. And in fact, the next rounds will probably be a different powder. I'm going to start with some recommended loads of people shooting this bullet, and then we'll work back up. And I'll come back to CFE pistol. It's not the problem. It's the powder level that I used in it because of the data and the way that app shows it. But then also, most definitely, I was also driving the pressure up by this hitting the lens. So Andy, thanks again for that comment. I'm glad, you know, I was confident I'd done my checks, but I decided let's tear it down and let's check it this way, and you were dead on. So between those two, overpressure, kind of what we would say slightly out of battery, so to speak, kind of like in a rifle round. If the lugs weren't locked or things were out and then you detonate it, well, it's not supported well. This is not supported well. And between those two, boom, you get, you know, this beautiful little case head separation, which is on there. It looks like that, right? So learn from me, and don't do this. Be a little more careful when you do load development on an unknown bullet, a non-published bullet as well, especially related to overall length and driving at the jams and powder levels. Those two bit me. So I hope you learned something for this. I know I did. I'll be able to get this going again, no problem. The gun has already been back together, and I've cycled already over 75 rounds to it without an issue. Not with the zinc bullets again, because I'm going to pull those down, redo it, and get our loads where it should be. But I fired a bunch of factory blazer and some other stuff, and, you know, it's cycled right through. So really no damage to speak of. I had the one bolt catch break, and fortunately that was it to the gun. So anyway, learn from my mistakes. I hope you enjoyed this, and it's a lesson learned for me.